we can listen to shows and we can feel like, it's programming, where it's like, but like this is real life connection. This is real life community that we're building, and we want to have like those experiences with more of you all. Yo, I'm Bryce III.
And I'm Liz McKean.
And you are now tuned in to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. Here we dive into all the recovery stories from around the world.
And we talk about all pathways because there's no one right way to recover.
If you've been with us for a while, you know how powerful stories are. So get ready for your community to get just a little bigger today.
We are so glad that you're here. Let's get into the show.
Yo, welcome to season 2 of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. We had a new intro, so there's no intro.
So we don't know how to start if we don't have to say our names and what this show is.
What is going on?
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I mean, such is life. We figure it out as we go. Liz, what has been going on with you? It's been a minute. And I know you all have been listening at the beginning of every episode for the replay. We've been running these replays from season 1 as we get ready to launch season 2. And then on those episodes that aired, like there's that little clip at the beginning where we had the sunglasses on and we were just getting ready for summer and we were so innocent. And now here we are, and the leaves are falling in the front yard. And this past weekend was Detroit's first 50-degree days, and I'm heading into fall. So, what's up with you, Liz? How you feeling? How's your energy?
I'm still innocent, first of all, and also I don't need sunglasses anymore. But you and I have very different feelings about the seasons changing. Metaphorically, that's not true, but like literally, I think that's pretty too. I'm so pumped about fall.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like every individual human has their experience with resistance. Mine is when it comes to cold weather. Right now, like today, it's a beautiful day. I went and jogged outside. We jogged outside on the trails, and it's like 65 degrees, but then the thing started kicking in, the Mr. McGrabby pants, right? So he's like, if this was only wintertime, I would live in Michigan forever. It's like, yo, you're not here. Come back to now. But I agree with Mr. McGrabby pants that, like, yeah, man, I don't want cold, ashy, 30 degree below for 8 years Detroit winter, man. I just don't.
Well, I cross the street when I see Mr. Grabby Pants, first of all, if I'm going for a run. And second of all, no, I get it. That's the reason I moved. Sorry, couldn't let it go. That's the reason I moved to Florida. I was like, first of all, I hated the cold, like depressed, angry, worst thing ever invented. And then we moved to Florida, and I was like, my favorite thing about it was I didn't have to have that feeling. It wasn't even the cold that like I just so desperately like craved. It was to be able to stay in on a nice day and not feel terrible about it because, oh my God, this nice day is not going to last and it's going to be cold and I have to like take advantage of it. And it was like that desperate feeling I used to get when it was nice out here that I didn't in Florida. It's like, well, literally the sun will come out tomorrow. So I, didn't have to have that feeling. And then 8 years in, it was like, I didn't appreciate it anymore. And so it's like, I don't know where the balance is. And like, I think a lot of us in recovery probably are just like balance, moderation. Like, I don't even know her, but I certainly appreciate the seasons, the change in a way that not only did I not before because I didn't really know any different, but also I think I just was at a time in my life that I couldn't, I like needed that stability that like I can depend on this. It's going to be the same because everything else felt chaotic. And now I almost feel like I can handle it and therefore I can appreciate it. Yeah. So both metaphorically and physically.
I think as we like get to know ourselves too, like we come into contact with those things because there's some inherent appreciation. So with the wintertime, like when I was working as a recovery coach, I was on the east side of Detroit, and on the lunch times, I would just have to get out the office. And so I would go, but then I was like, it don't make no sense for me to sit in the car. I was just in the office, like, I'm going to take a walk. And these were the first times that I would like take a walk in the wintertime, like
Mm-hmm.
go outside in the cold. And yeah, it's cold. Yeah, I don't like the cold, but let me go and see what it feels like to take a walk. And I really enjoyed those walks. And every winter since, like I intentionally go outside
Mm.
and embrace that. I'm reading this book called Practice in Peace. It's by Pima Chodron. It's like a little book like this big.
Mm.
I'm actually done with it, but it's it talks about that feeling of resistance, and like
Mm-hmm.
actually taking a second to sit in it versus like, "Ah, I don't like it," or "Ah," and like getting into the action or the theatrics of like what that feeling is, but like actually sitting with it. And when we sit with it, oftentimes we find that like it's not even anything substantial, like it
Yeah.
dissolves. I find that when I talk to people, and it's like, I don't like roller coasters, I don't like olives, I don't eat anchovies, I don't, and it's like, why? And it's like, well, I just don't. And it's like, oh well, one day you decided that was the case, and then it just continued to be the case, because when you feel that feeling of resistance, like you lean into the theatrics of it, and over time it becomes, at least for me, it was an embodiment. It became my personality.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know we're all big on embracing change, and that's one of the practices, like feeling that energy, whatever that energy feels like for you, of like why I don't like it, and sitting into it. And oftentimes we'll see like it dissipates. It wasn't even real.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when we get to know ourselves more, like we'll find like, but I mean, like that is a process, and that's a practice. But there's things that I just really can prefer.
Yeah.
Like the summertime, you don't have to have, like, I don't have to practice to appreciate it. As a matter of fact,
Mm-mm.
like there's multiple times throughout a summertime or springtime or summer nights out on bikes, no shirt on, looking at the stars, hanging with people I love, sweet treats. It's just like moments of like lucidity, like,
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate that. And I think what's different from if I was to live in Arizona, here speaking to you, future Bryce, who I'm pretty sure is already there, but like, living where there's these long druid winters, like that allows for me to bring even more appreciation, because like, bro, there was nights you prayed for these nights.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the power of awareness, and like not challenging every thought that comes into your head, but like, I don't know, noticing them and then being able to like allow nuance in, which, yeah, so I've been sober now for, I don't do time. I don't count days quite on purpose, but and my recovery journey is significantly longer than like how long I've been like considered myself sober long term, but it's
Mhm.
been 6ish years, let's say. And that, I know in the past I would have thought that was a really long time, and now it feels like still like baby amount of time, but I really am feeling different, than I have. And I think it's part of just the way I mean, just how life continues to unfold, but also recovery. Cause I think having space for ambiguity and being able to tolerate change and being able to like notice when you're having a thought about something being uncomfortable and then being like, or, what about this can I appreciate? Um, those are things that they just come with time. It's like those little, okay, I'm not a video gamer, but like after a certain amount of time you like unlock things, like I've unlocked that level or whatever of being of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a backslide or something, but into less awareness. But I don't know, I just think it's cool. This is why I like having these conversations and appreciate that there's people that humor us and listen, because
I,
it's when you talk about it,
I don't
you notice it more.
I don't know why you playing like you wouldn't have this conversation if wasn't nobody listening anyway. You
I
know what I'm saying?
100% would. I'm not playing. No, I 100% would. We will.
I
Yeah.
think there's something to be said about and then we talked on the show multiple times about like how I used to disregard the importance of age. I come from, a neighborhood where, you might run into a 65-year-old dude who's doing the same thing I was doing at 18, but will want to pull the elder card. And it's like, I'm not listening to you. Like, you out here with me. What you gonna tell me? But in recovery, and having the luxury of continuity in the process, it's allowed for me to cultivate wisdom that I just can't have
Mm-hmm.
with 30 days, with
Mm-hmm.
90 days of doing anything. And this is not to like speak on recovery, but like, it's certain things like within, my professional career or within fatherhood or, within creating music and touching base with my creative bone. Like, there's just certain things that unless I continue to do it over and over again, I won't have the ability to like experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so continuity doesn't mean like I'm, on the beam 100% for, a trillion years, but it just means like continuing to show up and walk along this path that I've decided that I'm gonna walk. It
Mm-hmm.
gives us, I use the example of, we just got back from a men's retreat out in Hocking Hills, Ohio. It was phenomenal. And I'm with these guys that, we've gotten to know each other for probably like we coming close on 3 years now. And it's just something to be said about a space. Like I'm a big champion of everywhere I go. Like I haven't even met everybody who's gonna love me yet. I can meet new family everywhere, but just the space of like, these is my dogs. Like these are my bros that like allows for me to unlock a little bit more each and every time. And I got to see different sides to these guys out in the woods that you could tell they only felt comfortable to like reveal or be transparent about because of the continuity that preceded us getting to this campsite with each other.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
beautiful to see like this unfolding that could only take place because like we've continued to show up and create this space where we can all show up and support each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seasons.
I was literally just thinking, I'm like, I love that, like, we kind of accidentally stumbled into a episode starting out season 2 about seasons.
Mm.
And shockingly, for anyone who's listened to a single other episode, this is a metaphor.
We love our metaphors.
We love a metaphor.
Um,
We do.
yeah, and so season 2, expect way more metaphors.
If possible. Not a
uh,
single thing we say will be literal,
and I
only
think
metaphorical.
Liz often says, I'm gonna put her on the spot that if we look at the analytics of Rise, Recover, Live, oftentimes it'll show that like one of there's like 4 or 5 that have continuously gotten you all's attention, but one of our most popular episodes is of course episode 1 because everybody feels like they got to go to episode 1 so they can catch up. And Liz is always like, I cringe to know that's the first time that they're gonna come into contact with us. And I'm not gonna lie, like because we were babies. Babies in
Excellent
this.
guest, by the way. That is not a reflection on the awesomeness of the guest. That is just us learning how to podcast.
What was the first episode? A guest?
Yeah.
Was it Andrew?
Maybe Adriana. I don't know. We had some incredible people on, so like definitely those are worth listening to. But we were just like, as opposed to now, where we are just like the consummate professionals that you are hearing today.
But I mean, if you can hear and if you've heard like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, like, and you hear like Liz and I's chemistry like this, like now season 2, I think it'll be apparent like how the chemistry has evolved and how we've gotten to know each other like professionally, personally, and how that reflects into how we create a space for the guests that we'll have on. And how most often than not people immediately warm up to this space because of the relationship that Liz and I have. But like this just is not a thing that would have been possible on day one, no matter how easily we clicked to begin with. Even though Liz hated me at first, but that's for another
How
story.
dare you? No, that is untrue. Untrue. It's a lie. Nope. For the record.
But this, I think, season 2, just like the seasons of life, we've unfolded in a way that I think is going to allow for us to create a quality of program that we previously haven't been able to create.
Yeah,
what say you, Liz?
I was just going to say, I think, well, we've just, I mean, talking about relationships and seasons, like so much has unfolded over the last, I don't know, year and a half or however long it's been, within the recovery field, within the communities that exist in recovery and mental health spaces. And we've been fortunate, this is a podcast that's always been powered by the Phoenix. And as parts of that organization, we've been so fortunate to link arms with lots of other organizations and connect with people from all walks and all pathways and all destinations. And we've always talked about all pathways to recovery, but I feel like we're going to be able to really dive into those in a way that we haven't before, because we have friends in those areas in ways we haven't before. And talking about recovery in the realm of beyond substance use disorder, mental health in general, and really how it's all the same. We're all just people trying to do our best. um, I just think it's going to be cool to go in a lot of directions that we haven't explored, with the hope that whoever is tuning in is going to, hear something that feels familiar. Like you'll hear your story reflected in someone else's. Maybe you'll hear a story that makes you look at other people in the world a little bit differently with some more compassion, and allows for you to have seasons of your own life, of your own recovery, of your own mental health, because gosh, the thing that I needed last year isn't the same thing I needed this year. And I feel like reflecting that is something that we are excited to do in these conversations.
Indeed, indeed. And speaking of you, I don't know how yet, but I know like I want to increase the engagement level
Mm,
between us and you all.
yeah.
You all have continually played a huge role in the success of this podcast and this podcast reaching the ears that it needs to reach. I've heard I'm not gonna put my bro on blast, but like I think one of the dopest stories that I've heard has been uh, a good friend of mine. He found our podcast because somebody recommended it to him, or no, I think he was like struggling and like had just Googled, and then our podcast popped up, and so he found the podcast. He not from where I'm around. Well, he hasn't been where I'm at in a long time, but he reached out to me on social media, kind of find out he was moving back to where I'm at, and so we ended up linking. And now he's a good friend of mine. He was just at Detroit Soberfest this past weekend, and I think we can listen to shows and we can feel like it's programming where it's like, but like this is real life connection. This is real life community that we're building, and we want to have like those experiences with more of you all, where
Mm-hmm.
we're able to figure out like, does it serve us to come to this community or go to this community, or like, uh, we have the podcast space, the Rise Recover Live podcast space in the Phoenix app, and you can go in
Mm-hmm.
there and not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, if you reach out, Liz and I is reaching out back,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll connect with you and we take feedback. And if there's something you want us to shout out on the podcast, if you want to, dedicate an episode to a loved one, or, I just want to find more ways that we can make this our show, because it already is that,
Mm-hmm.
so how do we use the tools that exist to make sure that you could take advantage of this platform, because this thing, like, this is we don't rise alone, right? So this is our show. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that this season.
Yeah, I am
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
It's gonna be fun. I'm excited. I'm so glad we took a break from new recordings, because I think we needed it. We needed a little refresh, and I'm proud of us for taking care of ourselves in the way that we tell others or recommend for others too. But gosh, I missed this.
yeah. And I mean, I think that is I think the episode before we left was called like the one about rest or something like that, where it was
Yeah,
like we waxed poetic about like how important it is to take space and take a
yeah.
break. And now this one is like the change of seasons and how important it is to keep showing up and have continuity to your process, so that you can have these moments of like, I'm actually like super excited and super creative around like how to engage. And like I think that's the importance of the rest, and
Hmm.
also like the importance of like embracing seasonal change, is that like this is where you get feedback as well. Like you get feedback from both pieces of the process, but it's all, just as in recovery, like it's all a process. So how do we show up for it all?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Well, I'm ready. Let's show up. Let's show up together. We're going to continue to drop episodes, new episode every Tuesday. And yeah, we got lots of new ideas and guests in the works. And yeah, for now, our spot that you can connect with us is in that space in the Phoenix app. So download the app and hop in there. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you've enjoyed in the interim. If you've listened to any cool podcasts while we were dropping our previous favorites. And yeah, I think we did it. We're back.
We always do. We're back, baby. We'll catch you on the next episode of season 2 of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast.
See you then.